Washington Station. Wow, the Supreme Court. Wow, Washington Memorial. Ooh, the Capitol. Oh, the Lincoln Memorial. And there it is, the White House.
That was the South Park character Towelie heading to Washington, D.C. and seeing what it's devolved into under Trump, a militarized monument to a wannabe autocrat with a tiny penis. And while that clip is funny, the truth is that it puts on full display a reality that's anything but. Just because Trump is trying to normalize Americans to the concept of the military in our own cities does not mean it's normal. It is a naked power grab, and Trump knows that, but he's also relying on Americans becoming accustomed to this idea so that if and when it's deployed on a broader scale, meaning not just LA and DC, but Philadelphia and Atlanta and Milwaukee and Detroit and any other Democratic population center, especially in a swing state, then it won't feel like the five-alarm fire that it very clearly is. In fact, I broached this topic with Mark Elias while discussing the specific rationale for this move. Here's what that conversation looked like. I have three thoughts as to why he might want to do this. One is that it normalizes the optics of deploying these troops if and when he wants to use them in the future. And so, as opposed to just coming out in October of 2026 and all of a sudden dropping troops into the cities, and then there's a big outcry over that. Well, now he can get us kind of normalized to this idea that troops are going to be patrolling the cities. Already done it in Washington, D.C., already done it in Los Angeles. And so every time it happens, people become a little bit more kind of desensitized to what's happening. So that's the first one. The second is that by virtue of doing this, he knows that there are going to be legal challenges to it, and he wants to win those legal challenges and establish some type of legal precedent for himself to be able to say, you know, when there's pushback in swing states, for example, no, I have the authority to be able to do this. It was already litigated in August of 2025. There's nothing that you can do. And then the third is that he wants to ultimately keep these people in place in some capacity as we do head toward 2026, because as we've spoken about numerous times, he doesn't have any pushback in the DOJ. If he wants to rig the election in 2026, not only will Pam Bondi not do what Bill Barr did, which is to call it bullshit and not substantiate it, she's going to help him with whatever he wants to do. So he has the approval of the suits, and now he'll have the muscle from the boots. And so, you know, these deployments now will kind of serve as a basis for him to continue to ramp it up to the point where he, you know, elections are going to roll around and he's got what he needs in the states to be able to seize voting machines or block off certain streets and precincts that might have high black or brown or Democratic population centers. And so I'm just curious for your thoughts if you think that those are well-founded in terms of the rationale for why Trump might be doing this.
In terms of what he hopes to get out of it, I think it is that he does plan on having both federal law enforcement and guard and perhaps active military on the streets in 2026 in the run up to and after the election. Like I think that is baked in the cake, and the earlier he can accustom people to that, and by the way, if he can get them accustomed to those people having weapons, you know, all the better. And I suspect we'll see an escalation of what those weapons look like. I suspect they will become more and more militarized as we go along. So I think that's absolutely right. I also think you're exactly right, and it is something that is, I think, being largely overlooked, is that he is picking these legal fights now because he wants to set these precedent now. So, you know, we are literally in the week following the trial that Governor Newsom had about his challenge to the deployment in Los Angeles. And I think that Donald Trump wanted to provoke that legal apparatus to give him clearance to then, if he wins, to do this elsewhere. If he loses, to regroup and figure out what different authority to use.
And have enough time to be able to do it.
And have enough time, right. And then Washington, D.C. presents the ideal case for it because it's not a state, it's a federal enclave. So I think that there is absolutely a legal strategy behind this. And you're exactly right. Pam Bondi is all about that legal strategy. I mean, Pam Bondi is not going to be a roadblock in the way of Donald Trump's efforts to corrupt and undermine free and fair elections. She is going to be a cheerleader and an advocate for it. And so she is, I think, a big part of this thing. Remember, Pam Bondi was an election denier in 2020. You know, she lied about election results then, and Lord knows Kash Patel is an election denier. He made his name in some ways, in some sense, being an election denier, and that's true of so many of the prominent Republicans right now in this administration. And so they are very focused on 2026 because it is kind of like core to how they came to Trumpism. It is the animating principle of the MAGA movement. It's the only thing their boss cares about, frankly. So I do think all of these things are true.
So I understand that there's a lot happening in politics today. I also understand that that's a deliberate strategy put forward by this administration. They want you to feel overwhelmed and hopeless and helpless, so they deliberately flood the zone, knowing that it is beyond difficult to push back on everything. But that's where they underestimate us, because we will push back and we will not become accustomed to the autocratic changes that we're seeing in this country. In fact, the polling bears that out. Trump now has a dismal 38% approval rating according to Pew. Is that still too high? Absolutely. But does it reflect a precipitous drop since the beginning of his term? Yes, which tells us that Trump is losing support from Americans who had previously supported him, and that Americans are paying attention to what's going on, to the point where they can actually register that disapproval. But here's perhaps the most important point. These moves that Trump is taking, while dangerous, are a reflection on Trump's weakness, not his strength. If you're coming from a position of strength, you don't need to weaponize the US military. You don't need to extort law firms and universities and media outlets. You don't need to attack Americans who don't support your political agenda. But that's exactly what they're doing, because they know they can't win on their platform, so they have to try and consolidate power instead. So we have a few jobs here. A, we support the South Parks of the world, because laughing at this fascist motherfucker pierces this illusion that they're all powerful and beyond reproach. To Trump's dismay, we still live in a free country, we still have a First Amendment right, and we will never stop criticizing these small-dicked, thin-skinned motherfuckers who are trying to take this country over. B, do not turn away. Republicans want you to feel like their takeover is a done deal. It's not. They are not immune to pressure. They are not unaccountable. The reason they try to suppress our voices is because they know exactly how powerful they are. So don't forget to use them. And C, support what's happening in California and our broader efforts to fight back. We need to fight fire with fire here. The GOP is trying to entrench permanent Republican rule. We won't let that happen. If you'd like to donate to the California map redraw to neutralize the Texas power grab, I'll put the link on the screen and also in the post description of this video. In all, what I'm trying to say is that we do not give up, we fight. We're going to look back in 5, 10, 15 years from now, and our kids and our grandkids are going to ask us what we did when democracy was on the line. Under no circumstances will I say that I did nothing, and you shouldn't either. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on this screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.